recording. All right, you guys, it's another Sunday here. It's the gospel according to Kinison. We got Bill Kinison online. How you doing, Bill?
Good, Paul. How you doing?
Good. It's just another Sunday, and I love being here with you on a Sunday. I don't go to church anymore, so this is the closest I get, buddy.
Well, we kind of have our own church on Sunday morning.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We got our caffeine. We got the Church of Caffeine. You've got your tea. I've got my coffee.
I want to thank you for inviting me onto your program. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I want to thank you for coming along for the ride. So thank you for being here. In case you guys don't know, Bill Kinison is actually the older brother to Sam Kinison and manager, right? You were the manager to your brother.
Yes, I did.
And that was for 7 years?
6 years. He was up on, well, I'd managed him longer than that. He was on top for 6 years.
Yeah, there you go. So God bless Sam Kinison. Love that guy. But we're here on Sunday, and you're going to talk to us. And I'm tired of turning on the news. Every time I turn on the news, they say, good evening. It's the 11 o'clock news. And then that's the end of my good evening. They just go into some really ugly, bad stories, and I feel really bad, but I know I still need to be connected with what's going on in the outside world, right? But I can't be so ungrateful, I guess. I guess I find myself kind of feeling empty after watching 15 minutes of news. I feel, and so I'm looking to you for a little bit of inspiration, my man.
All right.
So what do you got for us this week?
Well, I was, as I was pondering this program, and I was looking out at, the situations in the world, they talk about the economy being, doing so well that it takes a long time for that to drizzle down to you and me. And then I've had, I had a couple funerals this last week of friends, and I got to thinking about, I don't know, it was years ago. I had two women that were diagnosed with cancer, the exact same cancer, the same prognosis, and that was they both had 6 months to live.
Wow.
One of them was named Ruth Geiger, and the other was named Mary Smith.
Okay.
Ruth Geiger went on and lived 25, 30 years later. And Mary Smith died almost on the very day of 6 months of being diagnosed. And I thought, what made the difference? Because I'd seen it so much in the ministry. Why did one get it and another doesn't?
Right.
And the thing that I started realizing is that Ruth was grateful. She was grateful for whatever she'd had in life, and she went on and lived, where Mary immediately got bitter and stayed bitter until she died. And so I started looking at the different things, and I found this is really interesting. I found a missionary in Africa years ago, and he told a story about a tribe that was mysteriously poverty-stricken, and yet all the other tribes around them were very prosperous as far as their natural surroundings.
Right.
And he literally spent years. He literally spent years trying to find out why this tribe was so impoverished. What he found out was, and he thought that was the reason, is that in this tribe's language, there was not a word that signified thankfulness or gratefulness. And so he kind of put it together that they were unable to express gratitude, and that affected their entire surroundings. And so I started looking I'm looking at that Plato 2,500 years ago. He said a grateful mind is a great mind that eventually attracts to itself great things. Now, he was talking about, before we came on here, he was talking about a friend that had died. The hardest death I ever had was my youngest brother, Kevin. He walked in on a home burglary. they took him back in the bedroom and shot him in the back of the head and killed him.
Ugh.
That was the hardest death for me to ever accept of in all the deaths of my life. My mother died as a victim of an armed robbery. Sam died in a head-on collision that I was right behind him. My older brother Richard died of cancer, but the hardest one was Kevin, and it affected Sam and I both. And I had to make a decision, and that decision was I could hate God, I could hate everything around me, I could hate the person that did it, who they never did find, or I could be thankful for 28 years that I had with Kevin.
Right.
And I decided that I was going to be thankful, that I was going to be grateful for the time that I had with him. And we have that ability, and that's what affects our outcome. You know, people, you know, they don't have money. They're sick.
Mm-hmm.
They're emotionally depressed. Well, you know, your thoughts is what got you there.
Right.
Your thoughts can get you out. But the way that it begins is being grateful. Somebody said, but I got a crap job. I got a job that is, well, be grateful. Plato said, a great mind will create great things. And that a grateful mind is a great mind.
Now,
you're looking at me.
Now what happens? I get caught up in the moment so many times, Bill, like where something happens. You know, maybe it's just sitting in traffic here in the Bay Area, and all of a sudden it's a hot day. I'm sitting in traffic, and all of a sudden my temperature goes up as much as the temperature outside the car and inside the car.
Yeah.
So, how do you find peace and serenity within that? I mean, sometimes you're just, I guess you're grateful to be alive, that you're in your car, that you have a car, that you're going to and from work, right? Like, where do you find your inner peace?
We're not perfect.
Right.
You know, we don't face every situation, and I don't care who they are. They never face every situation just walking in the clouds. I mean, you'll have those moments.
Right.
But your consciousness has to be a consciousness of gratefulness. You know, we have so many ways of people trying to tell us how to be prosperous, especially.
Oh, yeah.
You can go on the internet and you can find one group after another group that's geared to make you prosperous and to make your life happy. Well, you know, the problem is they never start to where the problem was. You created that world. The world you have, you created. You can blame everyone else, but you created that world. But you can change that world. A good example of what you're talking about was, and I don't want to get all religious. I'm not a religious guy. Is Jesus when he fed the 5,000? And you know, the first thing we have to understand is that to God or a higher power, there's no such thing as a miracle. Everything walks according to the divine laws that are laid out.
Right.
And Jesus, he did something that I've never heard preachers ever say, and that is he takes his lunch, and then it said, and he lifted it up and gave thanks.
Mm.
Well, I don't think he was necessarily, you know, showing God or whatever. I really think he was turning his back to the situation and giving thanks that he has a few loaves and fishes.
Right.
Now, you know, I've heard other people, and who knows what happened. Other people say merchants came by, and that's how they ended up with 12 baskets full. I don't care. I don't care. They had lunch trucks that came by. That's irrelevant to me.
Even if they had a Costco back then.
Yeah. What was relevant to me is that he lifted it up and gave thanks for what he had.
Right.
You may not have much, but give thanks for it, and it will start increasing. Now, this isn't, you know, no one is Superman. You know, I'm the first one to say that, and I don't know how you feel. I'm not a big believer, and my daughter really gets upset with me because I'm not a big believer in affirmations.
Right.
You know, walking around and, you know, I name it and I claim it, or putting pictures of your new Cadillac you don't have on your fridge. I'm not big on that.
Okay.
What I'm big on is your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get a little personal with Sam and I's life. We started life in Peoria, Illinois, in the same projects as Richard Pryor.
Wow.
I remember sitting in the green room one time with Richard. We didn't know him then, but we got to know him and be very close friends later. But I remember sitting in the green room with him, and his act was about being in the projects and what life was like. And I remember sitting there and telling Richard, I don't want to hear your crap about how rough it was in the projects. And I remember him going, yeah, man, you don't know what it was like. I go, no, you're wrong. We were in the same projects and we were white. So I don't even want to hear how tough you had it. But our problem is we look for excuses. And yet out of that situation, you have a Sam Kinison.
Right.
That grows up in the projects. My dad eventually we moved on up, as the song says, moving on up. Well, we end up living in the church that my dad pastored until we got old enough to leave the house or get married. Sam got in the ministry and was in there for 7 years.
Wow. Never
made as much as $5,000 in a year.
Right.
For 7 years. He gets out of that and he gets into comedy, and for the first time I see him successful. Then he goes out to LA. He's the Texas Comedian of the Year for 2 years, and I'll never forget, he goes out to LA and he showcases for Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store.
Right.
And he tells her, said, I was the Texas Comedian of the Year for 2 years, and she goes, what's Texas? In other words, you're in Hollywood.
Right.
And he worked as a doorman, Paul. Worked as a doorman for 5 years. And eventually, he got to be a paid regular, which meant he got $35 whenever he got a thing on stage. And when he made it, he was making $35 a night. He never was ungrateful. Never.
When he was at his lowest point, when he was at his highest point, never an ungrateful man.
When he was sleeping on bar stools or bar tables over in La Jolla at the Comedy Store, and his food was eating the fruit and stuff out of the drinks in the back at the kitchen that they put in the drinks.
The garnishes, yeah.
And I remember him telling me one time, because of the paparazzis and stuff and the celebrities having trouble, and he goes, I don't get it, man. That's the reason I got in this business.
Right.
Was to be a fan, for the fans to like me and everything else. Gratefulness will get you through.
Right.
It'll get you through a lot of things in life. But it will attract great things into your life. I know I sound like a motivational speaker now, but it will attract great things into your life. So you can't and I've told you a little bit, I've had probably more tragedies than most of the people that's watching us this morning.
Right.
In my family, no one gets sick and dies in our family. They get killed.
They just die. Yeah.
Bad things happen to them. And I refuse to do anything but be grateful for the time I had with them.
Right.
I mean, I just refuse to do that. Sam ended up extremely successful, as you well know. He is looked at as one of the top 5 stand-up comedians of all time.
He's definitely there for me.
Yeah. After he died, and I grew up in the same situations he did, I won a Grammy. I wrote a best-selling book. I have 2 movies in development. I have won all kinds of awards for documentaries and videos. But if I had not won anything, I was still grateful for the ride that I had. I've told my wife several times, I said, if my time comes right now, and there's a God that I have to look at, I'm not going to argue with him one bit, because I've had such a great life that I have not one reason to go, no, it's not time to go. If he takes me right now, it's not time. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm grateful for my life. I have an older brother I told you about that was just the biggest miracle I ever seen in my life. And the good thing about it was, it wasn't a preacher that prayed for him and able to take the credit or anything else, but he was born severely mentally handicapped. He could retain very little knowledge. He didn't walk till he was 3 years old. He, at 10 years old, he couldn't count to, at 13, he couldn't count to 10. He couldn't tie his own shoes. He couldn't dress. They didn't send a short bus to our house. They sent a state-funded taxi that would take him to a school that would teach him how to just feed himself without hurting himself. And yet one morning he gets up and says an angel appeared to him and said he was healed. And he ended up being the best evangelist I've ever seen in my life. Wow. It works, Paul. It works. We can't complain about our life. We created this life. We can change it.
We can, and I think that's kind of brings us back to what we were saying, or what I was saying in the beginning, is that I guess, like today's current news cycle, I was talking about the opening of the news. That's the end of my good evening, right? So it seems like if there's so much negativity being thrown at us, how do we stay grateful? How do we stay positive? Because I think it's positive thinking, right? I mean, that's part of it, right?
More of a consciousness.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a consciousness than just thinking.
Okay.
Just to make this clear, I'm not a Trumpster.
Right.
I never voted for him. I never voted for Hillary. I didn't want to vote for either one of them. But I never had a breakdown the next day. No matter who was going to get elected, I was not going to have a breakdown, because my future, emotionally especially, is not dependent on them. I want them to do good, just like you want them to do good. But if they don't, my emotional stability is not dependent on them. It's dependent on me.
It shouldn't control your happiness. I'm sorry. It shouldn't control your happiness. You're right.
Yeah.
And you're right. The actions of others shouldn't really dictate how you believe and feel and how you affect others' lives.
Yeah. I believe life is branch to branch.
Okay.
I believe that you and I meeting is no accident.
Absolutely.
Either one of us. I really believe that. And I think that if we would live according to, I've always had this theory. In 1986, I was pastoring a big church in Rockville, Illinois. I was in the shower getting ready for a Sunday service, and something inside of me, I was never a preacher, that would get to church and go, God told me on the way to church today. If God had spoke to me, I'd have probably wrecked my car. But I was never one of those guys. But inside of my heart, it was like I was supposed to do something else. And so I remember I'm driving to church to do the Sunday morning service at this large church, and I got to tell my wife that we're not going to be pastoring here anymore. And I thought, man, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
And as on the way there, I told her, I said, Sherry, this is going to be our last service as pastor.
Wow.
And what I expected was, oh no, we're not going anywhere. We got a great church. We got a set. No, we're not. And what she said was, what are we going to do? And I said, and there wasn't any divine kind of a thing that happened, but I said, Sam's wanted us to manage him. So we got enough money to last a couple of years out in California. Let's head out there. But nothing had happened. And I came out here, and Sam hit about 6 weeks after we got here. Not according to my ability. It was actually Rodney Dangerfield that talked us into doing an HBO 6 minutes on an HBO special.
Yeah, I think I remember that little special.
Yeah. But that changed his life. It changed our life.
It changed so many people's lives.
Yeah. But what if on that Sunday morning I'd have just went, oh no, I'm not. I've got security here. I'm making money here. But what if I'd have done that? Sherry reminded me the other day. She said, "What do you think we would have done if we hadn't have come to California?"
Mm.
And I said, "I don't know, because preachers preach till they die or they get fired."
Right.
And so I'd probably be one or the other right now. You have to listen to that inside voice, that intuition, and act on the first one that you have. I really believe that. I've lived my life that way. Sam lived his life that way. And good things will happen to you.
Well, that's good. I'm already starting to feel kind of more productive. And I know you're not I know you're not a motivational speaker, because there's not an 800 number crawling across here telling me how much I need to send you for the rest of the information you're going to give me today.
My people will get a hold of you.
Oh, is that how it does? It's
at the telephones right now, waiting to hear from you.
Oh, they're going to shake me down. Okay, cool. Okay, great. They call me. Okay.
There you are.
So, yeah, I'm already starting to feel a little bit more grateful, especially for sitting here talking to you. So this has been a great Sunday so far.
Well, you got 4 wonderful children, Paul.
Yes, I do, and a lovely and a lovely girlfriend. That's God bless her. She's been with me for 18 years now. So
she has to be a saint.
I'm telling you to put up with this. You know it, right, Bill? So you know, I'm going to look forward to this. We're going to try to do this on a Sunday for you guys. Again, this is Bill Kinison. It's the gospel according to Kinison here on the Edge of Insanity. You can download it on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn apps, or just get it organically right off the web and just Google it. We'll probably put it up on YouTube for you guys too. Wow. Any closing thoughts here, Bill?
You know, I looked up the word bless, which goes along with gratefulness. And what it really means is to confer prosperity upon. So that job you don't like, start blessing it. And you'll grow out of it. Okay. You're having emotional problems with your family. Start blessing the family instead of just resenting what's going on. And you will confer prosperity upon them. Somebody goes, well, I tried that. It's a consciousness. It's not something you just say with your lips. You don't have to say anything. It's a matter of how your outlook. If there's one thing I want to leave with everyone is, if you're unhappy with your world, you created it. The good news is you can recreate it to what you're happy with. Yeah. That's all I got to say, Paul.
Oh, no, that's it. You know, and I really respect this. Thank you again, and keep standing up, everybody. Again, one more time, Bill Kinison with the gospel according to Kinison. We'll see you next time, buddy.
All right, pal. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, bye-bye.